What's up? It's BunnyMuffins. This is the Friday after the patch, so as usual, I'm going to be doing an analysis of a particular region. This time I'm going to be doing Korea again, since I think they're a very strong region, which also plays a lot differently from North America and Europe. This patch is quite similar to the last one, with the exception that we added Karma and Leona for the lunar synergy to the metagame, and we also have Nocturne nerfs, so Blenders kind of disappeared. I'll let you guys decide for yourself on which comps you would like to play, so let's just start off with our first composition. So as of writing this, the rank 1 Korean player has not actually played on the new patch on his main account. So we start off with Korea's number 2 player, who is a huge fan of Blade Master compositions. In North America and Europe, we're seeing a lot of Blade Master Azir. This player, however, he actually goes for Blade Masters and wins without getting Blade Master item for Azir. He actually doesn't even prioritize it at all, and instead he goes for all of the on hits and early game items instead. So this is a team right here. We have 2 Lunar, 4 Blade Master, 2 Desert, 2 Mystic, and 2 Warden. There are a bunch of different substitutions you can make, which I'll go into in a second, but early game, he goes for a Warden start into Lunar and Blade Masters. Again, Lunar's very strong early game because the fights last really long in the beginning of the game. In the middle game, units such as Nautilus and Thresh provide great frontline for your Blade Masters, especially when combined with the Lunar bonus. And after that, he goes for Master Yi, so he'll have Mystic as well. For items, he builds things such as Red Buff, Hush, and Runons or Sivir, and Giant Slayer as well. And then you could put some early game defensive items on your front line, such as Locket or Frozen Heart. At the end of the game, you'll want to throw any leftover items onto Master Yi, and if you manage to make Azir a Blade Master, feel free to replace Aatrox for a Warden or Mystic. Now we go on to some of the different substitutions you can make. So there are many of them, because Janna, Nami, or Soraka, you could throw those in for either any 2 Mystic combinations or for 4 Mystics in AP heavy lobbies. Malphite can be replaced as well if you have sufficient frontline with items such as multiple Lockets. But this composition does top out at 8 units, and you could also take out Leona and Karma to put in stronger units such as like a Mumu or Taric later to complement the Warden synergy with Malphite. But that's it for this comp. This is a pretty interesting comp. It's mainly very, very popular in North America and Europe, but mainly with Azir with the Blade Master item. So moving into our next person, this is the rank 3 person in Korea, and he's been playing, he's been doing something very interesting. He forces Yorick every single game, and it doesn't matter if he has 6 lights or summoners or even in a shadow build. Sometimes he just even plays Yorick with like 6 other tanks. And I'm going to list out what I think are the easiest and strongest builds, since there are many variations with him, and he adjusts pretty much every game depending on the lobby. So we're going to start out with the most popular one. This is a 6 light composition. This is probably the strongest comp in the game right now, and it revolves around Lucian carry with Senna with Guardian Angel and Morello, but he also itemizes Yorick pretty heavily whenever he does this. So for the early game, it's pretty easy because you just really need a good light start with the proper items such as Guardian Angel and Morello on Senna. If you don't have Guardian Angel or Morello early game, I wouldn't even try going for lights. I just do a different Yorick build as well instead. So first you'll start off with Wardens with Nasus, and Vayne can be the item holder for Lucian, holding things such as Giant Slayer in the early game. And after that, you'll want to transition into 3 lights with Wardens as your front line. Once you get Yorick at level 7, you'll want to switch into 6 lights and Senna as your team. Next, you'll want to add Hush on Lucian for the late game because it just really stops the enemy team from getting big CCs off or any big spells. The core Yorick item is Guardian Angel, and after that, any damage or offensive item will do for him, but I've seen this player favor Rabadon's Death Cap and Seraph's pretty heavily. So some of the substitutions you can make, I'll go into one of them. Again, there are many different things you could go. Like, he works in any 3 summoner comp. There are a lot of 3 light comps with a lot of Mystics and Wardens as well. But I think this comp's the most interesting. The base items for Yorick remain the same. He has a Guardian Angel and then 2 other items, defensive or offensive. Doesn't really matter. And this one also has Kindred and Malzahar at 3-star. So when you're rolling down at level 7 and you see a lot of Kindreds and Malzahar, you could go ahead and go for this composition. This is also good if you don't have the GA or Morello. That is useful for the light composition. So this is a 6-person composition, as you can see here. Though we do level up to level 8, the base remains the same, and you just add 2 defensive units to complement this. This would be either 2 Wardens or 2 Mystic, or even adding Lux as one of your last slots. Scion can also be used in place of Yi, but then you do lose a Mystic, so you really want to try to find Yi later in the game. And again, you want to be itemizing Kindred and Malzahar in this composition. Lastly, we're going to go into the Berserker composition, and most of the other top 10s in Korea are not actually playing the game quite yet. They're probably taking the time to learn the patch on like a Smurf account. So this is a rank 10 Korean player, obviously still very high elo. I think he's at like 1,000 LP. And he loves Berserkers. He plays them a lot, and of course the carry is Olaf, and he likes using the poison variant to complement it. So some of the... this is another easy composition to play. As many of the Berserkers are low-cost units, you get them pretty early, so there's not much like skill per se in terms of transitioning. You'll want to start the game with Volibear and Ornn and another Warden for a strong start. If not, you just grab as many Berserkers as you can with any 2-star units, and from there you slowly add 1 Berserker after the other until you can run 3 of them. So you could get that at either level 4 or level 5. You run 3 Berserkers plus 1 random unit. And this is a really big early game power spike. The transition is pretty straightforward, as you'll level up to level 7, find Olaf and Twitch, and then at level 8 you try to find Singe. One important thing to note is that you don't really want to play Twitch until you add Singe, so if you have like a really strong mid-game unit, such as like a random unit that you got to 2-star, use that person to hold Twitch's items. And then for Olaf, he's your main carry, and he loves building Guardian Angel and Hush. These are probably the 2 most important items on him, according to that player. And after that, you could complement it with almost any other item, so whatever you have leftovers in terms of components, or yeah, pretty much either offensive or defensive works here. The ones I like the most personally are Bloodthirster, a second Hush, or Rageblade. And then the last most important item you need is Morello on Singe. That is, you don't want to go the poison variant without getting Morello on Singe, because that's kind of the whole reason to play this. It's a lot of your damage. And you could fill Singe. You definitely want Singe at 3 items, but you could put pretty much anything you want there. I like having 2 defensive items, maybe like Dragon Claw, Guardian Angel, or Warmogs. Doesn't really matter though, you just use whatever leftovers you have at that point in the game. And if you're having trouble in the early game, Locket is also a very strong item for Berserkers, because they all stand in a line, so they all benefit from the shield and they all get attacked at the same time. So what I like to do is put Lockets on Volibear early game if I am thinking I'm going to have trouble, such as if I don't hit any of my upgrades. So some of the substitutions for this composition is going the electric composition by adding Zed and Ornn and removing poison. I did a guide on this before, so I'm not going to list out the build again, but you'll want to make Zed your secondary carry with items such as Guardian Angel, Infinity Edge, and maybe another defensive item. And there isn't too much flexibility with 6 Berserkers, so there aren't that many different substitutions. I'd only really go for this comp or the electric comp. And again, that's just removing Singe and Twitch and adding in Ornn and Zed. And this is pretty good if you can't find Twitch or Singe, or if you find Zed quite easily. But that's all for today. The meta is quite similar to last patch. The strongest composition is probably the 6 light composition with Yorick and Lucian carry. However, it's a pretty highly contested build, so be sure to scout when going for this composition. In North America, I've seen so many Blade Master Azirs, and that is the prioritized item when you go that build, like the Blade Master item. So it's pretty interesting to see this Korean player ignore that item in many of his Blade Master games. Next week, I'll post a guide on what I think my favorite comp for this patch is, so stay tuned for that. I'm also starting an unranked to challenger stream on twitch.tv/BunnyMuffinsLOL, so feel free to tune into that if you're interested in seeing how I play. Thanks so much for checking this out. I'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And of course, smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.